Hi, Prathmesh. How are you?
Hi, I'm good.
Okay.
Fine.
Thank you for taking out your time from your busy schedule for being here with us and wanting to share your story and what really helps you to become the leader you are today. So just could you let me know a little bit about your work and what kind of yeah, business are you into? Um, how does it help the people, etc.
Sure. So most of my corporate career has been into finance. I was at Goldman Sachs doing quantitative finance,
Okay.
and finance happens to be my area of strength and interest. And this is my second startup. My previous startup was at a cusp of finance and travel, and we had created a financial price lock solution for undecided traveler. And the product is today it's available on Make My Trip. That time we had powered it on Clear Trip. And this particular startup, Aggois, this is essentially at an intersection of agriculture and finance. It's an agri-fintech startup.
Okay.
So yeah,
Okay. Awesome. So, you've been in this business for a while now, right?
yes. So talking about Aggois, it has been about 4+ years, and it has been quite a journey with lots of learning.
I'm sure. I'm sure. So, if you could share with us some of your, best practices that you've used in your business and how they could also help other, business owners like you.
Sure. So one thing I would surely want to say is we should approach anything with an open mind. So coming from, especially I would say this, coming from a corporate background, we have a tendency to essentially imagine each and everything. Just imagine next steps. Just go into a conversation, right? And then imagine the kind of questions the other person would ask and then be ready with the answer of that question. Imagine all that. So I would say shun all that layer. That's not required. Just go into conversation with open mind and create out of nothingness. So
Yeah.
that's the very first thing uh,
Awesome.
I
Yeah.
would say, right? And secondly, of course, there is bound to be lots of failure. So it's important to take the right lesson and just clear it up from system, right? Not be fixated with in anything that has happened in past, right? So
Mhm.
we have to live in present and create future from present and not from any past, right? What happened in past.
Yeah.
And yeah, and
Okay. Interesting. Yeah.
one point I would specially mention is we business is all about people, right? So we it's all about getting right people as employees, right people as business partner, right? And all so judgment about people is the most important judgment that we make, right? And while coming to people, again it's important not to be fixated with past, right? But a more important and logical way to interview anyone is essentially look at their integrity and so what they declare and what is their integrity. That's it. And domain expertise is something which is a bit of overrated these days, right? So things are changing pretty fast, things are very fluid. So it's possible that a person has exhibited great skills and great results in a particular domain, but what if that person wants to change the domain, right? So that's okay. So all that matters is what the person declared and what was his integrity. That's it, right?
Yeah.
And yes, we have to look forward, not so we can complain about a lot of things, right? Many things are not working, but the same thing can become opportunity for we entrepreneurs, right? So we have to look for solution and we have to look for a way forward. And of course we have to do a lot of jugaad, right? So use our connections and jugaad, so that really can give us an edge, right? And finally, get habituated to rejection. There is bound to be lot. So have thick skin. So yeah, that is what I
Yeah.
would say.
I think these are awesome mantras, and I was also just making some notes while you were talking about it. So, really, I mean, the first point was amazing what you said, creating something out of nothing, and
Yeah,
not really
yeah.
going so prepared with everything all the time. Because on it, yeah, it's so true, honestly. I mean, things just come out of nothing, and really, the best things actually come out of conversations, right?
Yes, yes,
And as
yes.
coaches, we also
So
believe in
we
that.
can surprise ourselves with the possibilities that can pan out, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
Right.
Uh,
And that gives us joy also. If I just go into a conversation without any expectation, and if I can get pleasantly surprised. But
yeah,
if I have lot of expectations and I have a script in my mind that things have to go that way, then if I get success, okay, ठीक है, good. It's not going to give me joy. But if I am not able to generate success by my definition of success, then of course that would give me agony, right?
yeah, yeah. I think what you said is so profound, because many times we put a lot of pressure on us, and what I think what you've done here in this conversation so far is it actually taken off that pressure from most of the CEOs and business owners. Just appear as you are, and be who you are really, right? And that's the message here. And of course,
Yeah,
judging people, and having the right people with integrity, and finding
yeah,
ways to go to a solution rather than
yeah,
problem. The jugaad,
right.
as you said,
Yeah,
is very,
yeah,
very, yeah, very, required, of course, for all business owners. So, and yes, at the end of the day, when nothing happens, when you're in a situation where things are going not so well, be prepared, for that
yes,
also,
yes, yes.
for
And
resilience.
benchmark for judgment, yeah, and benchmark for judging people should be what they declared and integrity to that declaration, rather than
Yeah,
a list of past credentials, certifications, and degrees and experience.
yeah, I agree with you completely. Yeah, we always see this, right? There are people with great degrees, and unfortunately, they don't get to perform the way we want them to. So,
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. So, what is this one like lesson that you feel, one key thing that you would want to kind of just say that this is like something I have learned in my life, and I wouldn't want
sure, yeah,
anybody to repeat this mistake, what would
yeah.
that
So,
be?
so that's a very valuable lesson from previous startup, and the lesson. So we have lot of ideas. When we think of problem, of course, that makes us look at all different opportunities that can pan out, a new way of solving things, and some market that can be created, right? All that is good. However, it's very important to first find market and then go for the product, and that was the learning that we learned in previous startup, right?
Okay.
So we were very fixated about creating product, right? and uh,
Hmm.
and we were so passionate about solving that problem really well, right? That we spent a chunk of time in creating a product and then go to the market, right? Only to realize that, of course, it's an iteration with customer, right? It's an iteration with customer.
Okay.
And design is one aspect that is very important. Only product does not help. Design is very important. How
Hmm.
the product would be consumed by the market, right? So having clarity about the market, what does the market want, right? And in what way market wants to consume the product, having all that clarity is very important. Only then we should invest time in creating or perfecting the product, right? To start with, we only should have a very minimal version of product and go to the market as soon as possible. And that would save a lot of time, that would save a lot of money. That is what I would say, right? A thumb rule I would say is, I would say 40% build 40% of just product, go to market, and then remaining product would actually be built by customer during the iteration, and the market would actually breed the product.
Hmm.
So yeah, and second thing I would say is, raise sooner than later, raise money sooner than later. That's also
Okay.
important.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So often we have tendency to just defer difficult conversations, right? It's a human, I would say it's a human tendency, right?
True.
And yeah, so however, in while doing a startup, right, it's all about, so we make a lot of assumptions, of course, and it's very important to verify these assumptions as early as possible. And one very big assumption is, if I do this, then someone will put money, right?
Mm, true,
Right.
true, true.
I would say, perhaps that's the riskiest assumption that a entrepreneur makes, and that's the biggest external dependency, right? That if I generate customer, if I do this, if I do that, then of course, I would find some investor willing to put money, and of course at a decent valuation, right?
Mm,
So we have a tendency to defer it, but I would say, just keep iterating with likely investors all the time. So it's an ongoing process, and getting right kind of feedback from investors is also important. And okay, however, investors are not customer. Customer is of course number one. Okay.
yeah.
Investors comes after customer. They are one key partner, but definitely after. I would say number one is customer. Number two is business partner. Number three is employees. Number four would be investors, right?
Mm,
So yeah. So better race sooner than later. It's fine to try and fail, right? And it's always good to get all likely feedbacks, all the investor kind of feedback sooner than later, so that one can actually act upon it and demonstrate the right kind of traction before actually approaching investors for next um, round of conversations, right? And I would strongly recommend, while talking to any investor, at least get clarity on two key questions. Question number one: would you ever invest in my startup? That's a very important yes or no kind of answer, right? And number two: if you were to invest in future, what is the matrix, or what is the number that you would look for in order to take the conversation forward? It's very important to get clarity on these two questions,
mm, mm.
right? Otherwise, just talking with investor does not help. I'm talking about entrepreneurs perspective. Of course, it
Yeah,
would help investors, because
yeah,
that's a
yeah.
useful input
Sure, sure.
for creating thesis from their perspective, right? But from
Yeah,
entrepreneur
yeah.
perspective, it's very important to get answer to these two key questions, right?
Mm,
Yeah. So and sometimes we should also say no to some opportunities, right?
mm,
So we create a certain business model, right? It's also important to stick to the model, right? Largely, I would say largely stick to the model and plan, right? And not be lured by uh, often some random opportunities that come, right?
mm,
So
mm,
sometimes it's important to say no, be in our own frame,
mm,
believe on ourselves and say no. So often, I mean, a lot of temptations would be there, but it's important to be in our own frame. And finally, we got to have some non-negotiables,
mm.
especially when it comes to values, right? Like, for some people, integrity would be a non-negotiable, right? So of course, there are certain set of values which are important, and which got to be non-negotiable for an entrepreneur. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Very, very true,
Thank you.
actually. Yeah. No, I think this is Prathmesh has been so insightful what you were just saying, and um, I think a lot of things actually what you said. First of all about the fact that a lot of us don't really look at the market, and we are so excited about creating a fantastic product because we believe that the product is going to work, but then yeah, when you test it in the market, it can or cannot be right, the way we want it to be, right, in terms of
Yeah.
acceptation. And the other thing that you said about the raising of the money and who is the most important one, actually, and that was really amazing what you said, because actually customers are definitely number one. And if you have the right customers, you may not even need an investor,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Because if they're able to get you the running cost, then you can start up.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's really nice. And yeah, saying no, I think that is such an important, I mean, factor. Many times, even consultants, people who are in service industry or in product, any kind of business entrepreneurs, we get lured by many exciting stuff that we get to see. So thank you for sharing that. I think that's really, really nice, that you could kind of bring out these gems, really, for the entrepreneurs, and people could see this, that, this is something very useful for people who are, at least who are starting up, and or who are in the same kind of a journey, been in the business for a few years and is still scaling up their business. Yeah. So I want to also ask you, you've already shared with me what kind of lessons you learned, and kind of advice as well that you would like to give the CEOs. So I just want to know and really kind of understand from you, what is it that you value the most? So if like you were sent to a deserted island, and you were asked to carry only 3 things with you, what would that be, and what would those be, and
Okay.
why?
Okay. So if I were to if I was dumped to a deserted island, right?
Yeah.
What I would think is I would want to declare that island as an independent nation, like
Okay.
Swami Nityanand has done and created an island of Kailasa and declared it as a Hindu nation, right? So I would like to declare it as a startup nation, okay?
Okay.
Okay. So first thing I would want to carry is I would want to be connected to the rest of the world. So a satellite phone with a solar charger.
Okay.
So, so that's an element of sustainability, right? And
Yeah.
of course, I would want to be connected with rest of the world, and of course, and I would create a visa on arrival policy for entrepreneurs, okay, who have one good solution to take the island forward, okay.
Okay. Nice.
So
Yeah.
anyone with an idea to
Hmm.
take island forward, and with some innovative solution,
Hmm.
gets a visa on arrival, okay.
Okay.
And okay, and just to be on the island, and just for some ensuring some form of survival, basic survival, right? uh, Another item would be, I would say, fire, some arrangement for fire, that is lighter, right? And
Hmm.
then and then maybe to roam around a bit, boat with a life jacket. Though I know swimming, still
Okay.
still that's an ocean, so not underestimating. So just for some basic survival, and want to be connected, and want to invite people from all over the world to come and settle on the island. And of course, pretty sure in this entire by following this entire process, the island will no longer be uninhabited. It would be settled. It would be
Yeah.
settled, yeah, fairly fast. And yeah,
Yeah.
and tomorrow, of course, uh, we there's no need to have our own currency. We can use USD, for example. That works.
Okay.
And
Sure.
English as a language works, right?
Yeah.
So and so yeah,
Yeah.
and
And
we would
maybe,
encourage all form of
yeah.
entrepreneurship.
Yeah. And I think when you have these kind of entrepreneurs there, just a thought that maybe they would bring in a lot of things as well, isn't it? With them. So,
Yes,
you may not really need to worry so much about your survival, actually, because they're
yes, correct.
supporting you. And so it's a community that you kind of are building there.
It's a community we are building, and so every person who has an idea to take island forward gets visa on arrival.
Okay,
Yeah,
that is awesome.
and really appreciate if person comes via their own boat and
On
transport.
their own boat, yeah. So,
On
yes.
board. And we would create a jetty, no problem.
Sure, sure. No, it is amazing, and it's such a pleasure to chat with you. I think what I really love is that you have such amazing creative thought process, and I'm sure that's the reason why you are where you are as an entrepreneur, and you're excelling in your business as well. So I really congratulate you on your journey, and going forward, wish you all the very best, and hoping that you scale greater heights in your business and in your life as well. So thank you so very much, Prathmesh, for sharing such
Yeah,
amazing information with us. Um,
yeah,
wishing you the
thank
best.
you, Sindhuja, and yeah. So wishing you all the best,
Thank you.
and
Thank
yeah,
you.
sure.
All right.